Today's lesson is Module 4, Lesson 2. And for today's lesson, before we get started, we're going to go over some basic information about the symbols used to represent multiplication and division, just to make sure that we all have the same understanding of these symbols, what they look like and what they mean. So to start off with, I want you to go ahead and note that multiplication symbols can be represented with an X, a dot that's slightly raised above the line. If it sits on the line, that usually means a decimal, so the dot would have to be up towards the middle of a letter or number, and also parentheses. I've given you some examples of what these would look like if they were used in an expression or an equation. And one thing else that I want to add on is anytime a variable is next to a number, it means to multiply. So for example, 3 next to an M is the same as M plus M plus M. And this is just a reminder that we had talked about earlier in the school year that multiplication symbols mean groups of. So 3 groups of M is the same as M plus M plus M. I gave you another example of using numbers this time. So 2 groups of 3 is the same as 3 plus 3. Remember that multiplication is just repeated addition. And so what that would look like if we wrote out 2 groups of 3, we would have 2 tape diagrams with 3 each. If we add those together, it now becomes 6. So we would read that as 6 is the same as 2 groups of 3. And then our equation would look like this. 6 is the same as 2 groups of 3. Now we're going to go on and talk about the division symbols. The division symbols can be noted as a small fraction bar with a dot on both the top and the bottom. Those 2 dots represent your divisor and your dividend. We also have the long division box. Then we have the 2 fraction bars. You'll notice that one is slightly slanted and the other one is straight across. They're used interchangeably. Neither one is more correct than the other one. And then if you saw those written out, it would look something like 6 divided by 2, 6 divided by 2, 6 divided by 2, and 6 divided by 2. Remember that division symbol means to break into groups. And then I have 2 different representations of that for you. So in the first one, when we do 6 divided by 2, I took the whole number 6 and I broke it into groups that have 2 in each group. So I can say 6 is 3 groups of 2. I also did it another way, where this time I took the whole number 6, I'm still dividing it by 2, but this time I broke it only into 2 groups, which changed my group size. So my group size is now 3. So now I would say 6 is 2 groups of 3. So now I want you to go ahead and take out today's, take out your student work. Please make sure that you are in Module 4 and you are on Lesson 2. You'll know that you're in Module 4 if the top corner is 6.4. Also remember that you have time during these videos. You can pause, you can rewind, you can watch it and listen to it as many times as you want to. For this opening exercise, they just want us to draw pictures of what this represents. So in this first one, if I have the number 8, if I have this whole number 8, I can break it into smaller pieces. And this time I'm going to make sure each one of my pieces is the size of 2. And what this says is 8 is 4 groups of 2. For the next one, remember that this symbol for multiplication means groups of. So now I need 3 groups of 2. So I have 2, 2, and 2. So 3 groups of 2 is 6. Now we're going to go on to the exploratory challenge. And before we get started on that, I'm going to go over an example with you. We're only going to do part of it today, and we'll do part of it later on. And as part of the exploratory challenge, it wants you to create 2 equations that show relationship between multiplication and division. We are only going to do that part. We're going to save that second half for another day. So I'm going to show you one that I created just so you have an example to look at. So I'm going to start with a group of 9. This whole group of 9. And I'm going to try to think, can I break this into smaller groups? Well, it looks like I can make some groups of 3. So if I had my whole number, I divided it into groups of 3. And how many groups do I have? I have 3. I also know that according to this example up here with multiplication, that multiplication is repeated addition, and these numbers are all the same, so that's the same as repeated addition. So this time I have 3 groups of 3, which is equal to 9. Now I have to figure out how I can represent this using one equation. So I'm going to start with my whole number, and then the first thing I did was I divided it into groups of 3, and then the second time I multiplied by 3, and I still ended up with my same answer. So my original number, then I have inverse operations, and then I have my original number. So 9 divided by 3 times 3 still results in 9. So you and a partner are going to do that. When you have one that you think works, then you're going to come and see me. And once I approve it, you're going to put your equation on large white paper. So those are the only 2 steps you're going to do in that assignment. And then for today's math, to show that you have some understanding of what we have completed today, you're going to do the exit ticket. And the exit ticket is very similar to what we did yesterday. Yesterday we had an original number, and then we had inverse operations of addition and subtraction. Today's inverse operations are going to be division and multiplication. So we'll do this first one together. So 12 divided by 3 times 3 results in 12. So you'll complete those. And then at the bottom, you're going to draw a pictorial representation of this equation. So 4 times 5 divided by 5 equals 4. So that's very similar to what you are doing with your partner. And then on the back, you're going to do some more original number, inverse operation, original number practice. Remember, you can pause, rewind, or ask questions as you need to.